Hi, I'm Andrew Legrand, the owner and founder of the Spare Law Group in New Orleans, Louisiana. We help business owners adjust the fan before they have to clean up the shit. Today's video is how to draft your own LLC operating agreement. Partnerships are one of the most complex issues we deal with as business attorneys. And unfortunately, most people underestimate how complex they are until things are really messy and they need to get out of it and they don't have a way to do that. So today's video is going to share some of those complexities and what you should think about as you're writing your own operating agreement. First, a little analogy. Partnerships are really like driving a car. Everyone knows an operating agreement. What you don't realize is that the operating agreement is kind of like the car safety features. It's that thing that you want and that you should have and that you know that you have, but it's a thing you hope that you never have to use. And if you do use it, you really hope that it works the way it's designed to. But we don't really want to be in an accident. In fact, we want to prevent that. So how do we stop the accidents from happening in the first place? Well, in the context of driving, we have rules of the road and we have signs that tell us what we can and can't do. So where most business partners mess up is that they never really draft those rules of the road to prevent accidents. Or, said another way, they never actually write them down. They talk about them all the time, but committing them to writing to where both partners or all the partners understand what they actually are is another story. So today I'm going to share some of the fundamentals with you so that you understand some of the discussion points that you and your partners need to go through and understand as you're going into business. Another analogy here is if cars first came out and there was bikes and everyone on the road going every sort of direction. No rules of the road. A modern road, a well-oiled machine and system, has a lot of rules of the road. There's a lot of safety features in this picture, but the difference between this picture with no rules of the road and this picture with rules of the road is how we actually reduce accidents. So what should you discuss? First, there's the foundation. What's the plan? Where are we going with this business? What are we going to sell? How are we going to sell it? What is the vision and how are we going to get there? Right? These are the basics that really every business should have, but it's even more important when you have a partner so that you're on the same page. What is the structure? There are some underlying legal and tax considerations that should be discussed with everybody, and those really need to be discussed on the front end. What is the decision making? There's different types of decisions. There's very easy decisions, there's very complex decisions. But not every single decision is a, well, I have to consult my partner kind of decision. Sometimes you need to make that decision on yourself, so it's important to distinguish between the different types of decisions and who can make them and when. What about the jobs that you and your partner are doing in the business? What are you going to contribute to the business, both in terms of money and time, effort, and skill? And what are you committing, not just now, but in the future to the business? How are you going to distinguish between the owners and employees? A lot of times owners work in the business and they don't distinguish and problems can come from that. So it's important to wear one hat when you're the owner and another hat when you're an employee and understand where those two different hats are and when you're wearing one and when you're wearing the other. What can members not do during the course of the business? What about after the business ceases to exist? Money. How and when are we going to distribute profit? What is profit? How do we define that? Who's going to be responsible for tracking the finances of the business and working with an accountant, working with a bookkeeper, and how are they going to report that? Where is this whole thing going? What is our end game? As an attorney, I don't really like statistics. This is one that I actually can get behind. Every business partnership will end. Because we know that, we can plan for that. So, first question is, well, when? And the second question is, how? If we know when, we should figure out how we're going to do it. And then, what happens if somebody doesn't want to do it? Then we know some things are going to happen, and then there's some things that we hope don't happen, but sometimes they do. Like somebody can't actually work in the business anymore because, well, they're disabled. Or even worse, they're a member and they've passed away. What happens to their shares? Where does that go? And then what happens if somebody doesn't do what they say they're going to do? Where do we go from there? Or somebody has a divorce or a bankruptcy or some other issue that puts their membership interest at risk, and a third party is coming in and trying to take control of that membership interest from them. How are we going to handle that situation? And then, what's all this worth? We're building this great thing, but for what? How are we going to value the shares of the business? We could just say hire a valuator, but what if somebody's not happy with that? What method is that valuator going to use? Who's going to pay for that? The company or one of the members? How often are we going to do that? How are we going to finance that? If the business is worth $10 million and one partner has to pay the other 50%, $5 million, do they just have $5 million sitting around in a piggy bank to pay for that? Partnerships are exceedingly complex and underestimated. And unfortunately, we see partners run into this problem all the time of not appreciating how complex they are until way after when they should have figured that out. Remember that without rules of the road, everyone's kind of running around doing what they want. And that kind of works until it doesn't. So by drafting rules of the road, we can actually help avoid accidents and make sure that the business runs a lot smoother than it would otherwise. As a business owner, the saddest thing that we see is that it's way more expensive to clean up the shit than it is to make little adjustments to the fan. So on the front end, it's a much smaller investment in terms of time, money, and stress to get this right than it is on the back end when things have already hit the fan. Thanks for watching today, and feel free to subscribe to our course below to learn more about operating agreements.